culture is actually damn good.
We're not urinating on the fire.
You can stop asking that question. I'm going to be calling the defense.
What I talked to Russell about is none of your business.
In this year's owners' meetings, not much has changed in the NFL landscape, but there were a few big decisions made. In an attempt to massage the egos of the refs union, the motion to make roughing the passer reviewable was rejected. It doesn't matter. We all knew it was going to be like reviewing pass interference a few years ago, where only a play or two was overturned and blatant PI wasn't because reasons. You will, however, see more potential ref ball and players with the number 0 on the field. There will also be no gradual cuts down to the final roster in the preseason from 90 players, which should keep starters fresh for a probable wave of injuries in week 2 of the season. Speaking of changes that no one wants, there's a chance that Thursday Night Football will have flex scheduling. It's more than likely going to be up for vote in May, and would give teams at least 15 days notice of a change from Sunday to Thursday. This would be terrible for the game, but remember, the dollar is what drives the NFL. TV rights fees are far more important to the league than the fans, and we all know it. It'll probably be reality barring a miracle. On to the NFC's moves. Cincinnati suffered a painful loss, but it was much less of a gut punch than certain other playoff failures in the past that shall go unmentioned. The same goes for their offseason. They did lose significant pieces on defense, particularly Von Bell and Jesse Bates, but they need to secure funds for Joe Burrow's big boy extension. That mission is critical, since he did keep Jermaine Pratt around, but the bigger priority is protecting their crown jewel in the pocket. La'el Collins was a profound disappointment last season, constantly buried in pressures and then suffered severe injury. They can't afford that issue, so they cut him and bring in a true champion. His name is Orlando Brown Jr. He had his struggles last season, but look at the ring, man! With the contract they're giving, they're going to allow him to play blindside even. Bonus points for upgrading the line, but we all know the key is in extending Burrow. Poor Mike Brown is going to cry once he sees the final total.
Cincinnati Bengals select Miles Murphy, defensive end, Clemson.
This reeked of a Michael Mayer selection, but since he could use a counterpiece to Trey Hendrickson on the edge, especially in the unforgiving AFC North, having a guy like this in your arsenal is paramount. Miles should have day 1 impact barring catastrophic injury, and every piece counts in the quest to finally lift Lombardi for the first time. You'll do anything to get it. The upside is there, but can he be consistent enough to realize it? Joe Burrow question remains ever elusive for the Bengals. We've long been teased about the massive extension that'll be coming his way. It's going to reset the market. It's only a matter of when. But so far it's been quiet on that front. If they can get it done, the Bengals will be set as quality contenders for a while to come. As long as Burrow doesn't get injured long term. We all held our collective breath for a bit, but we can exhale. It was only a calf strain. There are other questions to ask, mainly in how they'll replace both Von Bell and Jesse Bates in the back end. Plus how Orlando Brown does at left tackle. They're making the right moves, and their receiving core is going to be as deadly as ever. But it doesn't guarantee that it'll work out. The great quandary of sport itself. You should still be good for this year, though. One word comes out of my mouth in regards to the AFC. Stacked. It's going to be a goddamn bloodbath in this conference. And it can be argued whomever makes the Super Bowl will win it outright. Regardless, predicting anything is somewhat of a coin flip. In the AFC East, regardless of competition, the Bills are still the best in class in my opinion. AFC North, barring more injury to Joe Burrow, Cincy takes it with their elite offense. The AFC South, it's Jacksonville's to lose. They have to win it by default, right? Although we did say that about Tennessee last year. And the AFC West is a Kansas City affair. As usual. Wild cards, though, they're really hard to gauge. Pick them out of a hat, I guess. Ravens, Chargers, and Jets. Why Jets? Because this is usually how ridiculous it tends to be. Sue me. I'm sorry for all the teams I jinxed as always. I regret nothing. We did say it was going to be when, not if, Joe Burrow would be getting the big bucks. Everything has been lining up for this moment to happen. He'll be shattering records with his new deal. And the time has come for the Bengals to pay up. Back up the Brinks truck, boys! It's gonna be raining government greed. He's getting that Paycor money now, baby. 5 years with a $55 million AAP and $220 million guarantee. The quarterback position is secure with an elite talent for years to come. And it'll probably come with a new stadium to hold Cincinnati hostage with in the future as well. Now to see if the Bengals can find a way to keep T. Higgins around long term. That'll secure pretty much everything they need to make more runs. Burrow's first opponent on the docket? A bunch of elves. Little did the Bengals know that these elves had access to mithril armor and hid in the mystical woods. As Cincy slowly treks through the domain, it becomes a sequel to the Battle of Teutoburg Forest. Ambushed at every angle by slings of arrows, charging infantry, and cavalry as they're whittled away one by one. The freshly paid General Burrow had generational levels of rust, unable to muster any counterattack against their foes' waves of attacks. The offense stymied under a litany of magic spells and alchemy alike. Joe Burrow was forced to retreat from battle with less than 100 yards passing, and the Browns celebrate a hard-earned win. Cleveland is Cleveland, huh? Nice bulletin board material, Jamar. Why not double down on it as those elves use you as target practice? Cincy, you are in deep fucking shit. Week 1 we can excuse as a fluke because a lot of weird things happen then. But for 2 games in a row, there's cause for serious concern. A few things out of the way. Yes, the Bengals are banged up. Yes, Joe Burrow still has some rust to shake off. Yes, this is probably an aberration to what they really are. But do you have any answers for the Ravens offense? They not only dominated possession, they boasted a balanced attack that Cincy seemingly couldn't stop. The Ravens also had some growing pains on offense, but with over 400 yards of it, they looked damn good here. Bursting out to a lead early and holding on for what remained. When the Bengals finally woke up to counter, it was too late. The game was lost. You should know the Escalooser goes in only one direction. Down. Baltimore don't think you got out of this unscathed either. OBJ's out now too. How am I not shocked by this? Thank God Zay Flowers had his breakout. We get a doubleheader of Monday Night Football again. And this one felt more like waiting for the underachieving son in his mid-20s to do something with his life. Cincinnati offense looks very flat. And most of that is on Joe Burrow not being anywhere close to 100%, but endlessly going out of shotgun and not running the ball aren't doing them any favors. They were on the struggle bus for most of the game. But thank the gods that the Bengals defense called out. A brick wall where nothing will pass. Matthew Stafford will be destroyed in the pocket. 6 sacks and 2 picks turned it into a nightmare. With these heroic deeds, the Bengals offense does just enough to escape humiliation. This game was the first time Burrow completed a pass over 15 yards this season. I'm not ultra concerned since Joe should heal up over time, but I'd double the paychecks of the defense this week. Well, if you have any pick or money left over from the Burrow extension. Joe Burrow is visibly hurting. At this point, it would probably be easier for the Bengals to let him fully heal instead of chuck him out at 50%. Cincy's offense is suffering big time. When your unit is worse than the goddamn Steelers in terms of points per game, that's a good sign to take a hard look at what you're doing. Mainly, why the hell are you trying to do things like you have a healthy Burrow? Of course Tennessee's going to take advantage of it. Worse, you don't even get the Herculean efforts of an overperforming defense to save the day. Not when King Henry's around, rumbling and destroying everything in his sight as always. The Titans needed this after whatever the hell last week was. Now Cincy's spiraling, T. Higgins is hurt, and Jamar Chase is pissed. He's like Waffle House. He's always open. If I had to give a participation trophy to a team that busts their ass to lose by 2 scores, Arizona would be the team that gets it. Oh, how they heroically overachieved to scare their opponents. Never look past them, because they'll keep it tight. For about 2 quarters. Cincy didn't turn the ball over because they refused to take the points. They simply wanted their defense to generate point production of their own with a pick 6. Seamless game planning. In this match, the Bengals felt more like the Bengals. The offense was finally clicking after 4 weeks of nothing, and the defense was holding their own. Jamar Chase ate like a god in the receiving column. Chemistry with Burrow once again. The asterisk here is that it is the Cardinals, but as I said, they play hard. They're like Rudy, without the feel-good aspect and happy ending. All they have are rumors that they'll move on from Buda Baker and Kyler soon. No complaints from Cincy, though. They'll take anything given to them. What is red zone offense? This is apparently one of the most pressing questions of the week if many games on the docket are to be considered. Seattle is supposed to have an offense that can execute in any given situation. Today, they simply executed themselves at every conceivable opportunity. The Bengals offense did enough to start, but only proceeded to score 3 points in the final 40-plus minutes of the game. Seattle's defense had no problem stopping an injured Burrow and Zach Taylor's mystery box of goodies. But the Seahawks one-upped it with a masterclass of incompetence all their own. And it was in the red zone. Seattle had almost double the total yardage that Cincy had on the day, yet the end zone felt like a chastity belt. Nobody gets in, no one has the key. That second half was dog shit abound. Was it more Seattle having a terrible offense or the Bengals defense taking advantage of a weak offensive line and bad schematics? Is it both? The Seahawks should have won this game handily, but it was stopped every time because nobody can do anything in the modern NFL without express written consent. Except field goals and interceptions in the red zone, of course. It gets even more egregious, down by 4 deep in the fourth quarter. The red zone calls again. What do they get? Shipwrecked by the siren's call. God forbid the offensive tackles do their job and seal the edge. But wait, there's more failure to come. Cincy's offense has become pure shit, so Seattle gets another chance. And you bet your ass they fucked it up. You want to just stuff this offense in the trunk of a car and kick it off the pier. It's what this team deserves. You can't get past the Bengals defense, you're done. Bengals escape thanks to more Herculean efforts. That honestly sounds about right. One bad game is a fluke and can be ignored. 2 bad games is a streak and needs to be acknowledged. 3 bad ones in a row is a trend and requires deep concern. The 49ers have a lot to be worried about, and there's no place to directly point the blame. It's everywhere. It may have taken a while, but the Bengals finally played up to their full potential for the first time all year. Joe Burrow looks fully healthy, and that's a joyous occasion for all of Cincinnati. He made the Niners defense look foolish repeatedly, and despite their early struggles, they have reemerged as a threat to the AFC. San Fran, however, has serious dilemmas. Despite going on and clearing concussion protocol, Brock Purdy is in a sophomore slump. He went from rocking his cock out to shriveling back to Mr. Irrelevant with some of these throws. Do you see this? This is shit that will get a man benched in the XFL. You sure he's okay? Since he merely had to stand there and let the offense keep fucking up. San Francisco had chances to get back into the contest, yet since he refused to make mistakes, California sinks into the ocean with a decisive win. There is some positive news, Niners fans. You may have lost your 3rd in a row, but Christian McCaffrey maintained his touchdown streak.
I won!
Although meaningless victories are still victories. This is a makeup match nearly 10 months in the making. Not only with DeMar Hamlin's return as an inactive player tonight, but the divisional matchup where Buffalo just looked lost and outmatched. In the grudge match, Buffalo looked just as lost and outmatched as last time. What do you say about a team that has tried everything to get over the hump but continually runs into potholes? Sometimes the same ones as before. Yes, a lot of it has to do with injuries, but it just feels like things have gotten stale. The Bengals are looking like a different class of team, simply besting them in most facets. If you're the Bills, it's panicking time. Especially with that schedule coming up. With how Cincy just toyed with them most of the game. It's been almost half a decade and the offensive game plan is still solely Josh Allen. They've never evolved. And unless he turns into a fire god, the team suffers. He can't do every single damn thing on the team. Trust me, he tried to will them back into the match, but can he play defense? Of course not. Cincinnati bests their nemesis once again. And as they've won their 4th in a row, we can safely say they're back. Mostly coincides with Burrow's health, but still a sight for sore eyes. Now on to the next challenge. Everyone expected the Bengals to be an upstart franchise, but the Texans? Definitely out of left field, but with CJ Stroud, anything's possible. At least until Cincy's defense stops a pivotal 4th and 1 near their goal line. That's unfortunately all the luck they'll get to start the match. For whatever reason, the Bengals offense is going 3 and out in an endless amount of drives. And the Texans unit takes advantage any way they can. Stroud is cementing his name among the potential elite of the NFL. By driving the Texans to a 20-7 lead, it's still a stunning development to us all. The good thing here is that the Bengals found this to be their wake-up call and would unleash the might of their offensive attack. It mainly involves Jamar Chase being always open and scampering for big touchdowns. Houston has a counter, though. More offense. CJ Stroud does CJ Stroud things as David Tepper sits somewhere in Carolina fuming. Mike Brown is probably somewhere in a press box fuming as well. Joe Burrow somehow turned into a turnover magnet. I don't get it either, but 2 straight drives with picks. They'll need a miracle, and they get one. A big interception thanks to a defender using an invisibility spell. Or at least I hope it was that. Touchdown Bengals, 3-point game. Predictably, Houston must punt because we can't have a calm ending ever. One rule, never fuck with Tyler Boyd. He lays low when Jamar eats all the attention. Hell, just watch him dominate again.
And Burrow to the air, to the end zone. Boyd.
It's probably the first time I've seen Tyler Boyd fuck up like that. Figures. Gives Houston a chance as they can only tie the contest. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but did you see what CJ Stroud did last week? He'll do close to the same today. Quickly dissecting the defense to field goal range. And all they need is a kick by newly signed Matt Amendola.
Off the practice squad for the lead, and it is good!
It's not Daria Gunbawale, but I'll accept it. Houston continues their meteoric rise from the ashes with an equally meteoric win. Who knew the key to restarting the Escalooser was a team creating weapons out of sticks and stones? Remember, it's not about the quality of the weapon. It's in the precision. That's why Cincy lies slain. You should know that no matter what teams they put on Thursday Night Football, it will be a terrible game. Even the ugly, brutal powers of the AFC North will be no match for what's on display here. Folks, this is what we call an injury bowl. Most players worth watching will deal with some form of ailment. In the case of Mark Andrews, an injury for the remainder of the season. Baltimore would use their balanced attack to pull away in the end to make this a lopsided contest, but there's a very good reason for it. Joe Burrow's wrist died along with Cincy, thus proving that we can have no nice things in this league. Jake Browning had thrown only one pass before this moment, their opponent all but wins by default. As the Ravens hunt for any remaining survivors on the Gus Bus, Logan Wilson will be playing a new game in the next night or two. Escape from Baltimore. After injuring 3 key players by playing football, the city will have him drawn and quartered if they find him. If only the loss were the worst thing the Bengals suffered this past week. When Joe Burrow started clenching his wrist, it was panicking time. With the calf injury that was ailing him, and him finally managing to get close to his true ability these past few weeks, things seemed to be looking up. Then came Baltimore. The moment he was unable to grip a football on the sideline, I knew shit was dire. Cincinnati, meet your worst-case scenario. A season-ending wrist injury for Joe. A year of struggle and strife now turns into outright suffering. With Burrow not being on the injury report despite having a brace off the team plane, nothing else needs to be said. The Bengals needed Joe badly, and their future is now in the hands of Jake Browning, who will be making his first career start next week. Considering how it went against Baltimore, I'm gonna say this in the nicest way I possibly can. Cincy, you're fucked. I can't believe it. Actual offense for the Steelers in a regular season game. Thought I'd never see such a sight again. Using the middle of the field, throwing to Pat Freiermuth, spreading the ball around for a balanced attack. If it weren't for Deontay Johnson dropping an easy touchdown and giving 0 fucks during a fumble, they'd have far more than 3 points at half. Too bad Cincy's not at full strength. Jake Browning, he was not Joe Burrow. I'll just leave it at that. Still don't know why the hell they used him like he was Burrow, but if Zach Taylor wants to lose games, that's his choice. I'm more stunned that Pittsburgh's able to move the ball more than 10 yards most drives. Even the game clocks were stunned in solidarity. They're not scoring many points, I get that, but considering the hackery of Matt Canada these past few years, this is like watching the greatest show on turf. The Steelers hadn't had 400 yards of offense for the entirety of Canada's reign and then some. They broke that total in the first game after his ouster. Pittsburgh outgained an opponent for the first time all season. It's ridiculously damning. Why did the organization let this fester for so long? Without Canada, this was their most complete win in years. It's so fucking sad. This win may be against a broken team, but tonight we burn everything Canadian. Cincinnati's got a tough road ahead of them, especially considering they now have to travel to Duval to face a team gunning for the #1 seed in the AFC. The scriptwriters of this game chose not to give us the typical blowout fare, but to institute a few twists. The main one being that the Bengals would revive their sluggish offense under the might of Jake Browning? Now that's a twist worthy of Shyamalan. The man isn't just besting this Jaguars defense, he's mincing it into puree. Jacksonville's sitting around stunned. Our team can't stop this? It's a highly competitive game? Who knew that this matchup, one minus a franchise quarterback, would turn into a tense stare-down before a duel? The fight continues on all tied up. But first, a football aneurysm.
From the 25, this is Boyd. That's behind the line of scrimmage. He's looking to throw, and he throws a pick!
Excuse me. What the fuck is this? You threw it right to the defender, man. Never, ever let Tyler Boyd throw a pass again. I think I suffered brain damage watching that. Jacksonville now has control of the game. Barely. Okay, here's the part where Duvall manages to pull ahead and bury their opponents. The Bengals have had their fun. There's no other reason to let this drag out further. It's unfortunate that the Jacksonville defense never got this memo. Jake Browning is continuing his relentless undressing of them on the main stage, all the way down the field to tie the game again. Panic fills the air in Duvall. With such a mess on display, there's no way this can get worse. And there goes Trevor Lawrence. Panic turns to outright despair. With the way he's reacting, and how that replay looked, this might mean the end of their season. I don't want to make this worse, but Brandon McManus pushed the field goal wide. The game's still tied. Sorry, kids, the orphanage isn't going to be built as Cincinnati stole all the funds for it on a field goal to take the lead. You'll have to rely on C.J. Beathard. The dude was ass in San Francisco. Good luck there. Just leading them down the field? Damn, I guess there is a first time for everything. Not enough to take the lead, but a field goal for overtime will suffice for the moment. Jacksonville has a chance to do the unthinkable. I can't believe it. A deep pass to Calvin Ridley at the goal line. But a holding call ruins it. And that's pretty fringe for a game-changing penalty, since he holds and does the thing where they push into Jacksonville territory. Crowd so stunned you can hear a pin drop. And now for Evan McPherson to kill them off for good.
He got it!
The Bengals may have saved their season with this win. I don't know if Jake Browning ever does this again, but what an incredible performance. Upending a heavy favorite like this? Jacksonville had a chance at glory, and now all they can do is hope to God their season isn't ruined. Fortunately, Trevor Lawrence only has a high ankle sprain. But with the hounds of the AFC at their door, it's going to be an unbelievable challenge. If their defense keeps having communication issues, it'll be tough to even play the soft schedule they have. So Doug's saying crowd noise was a factor in that? Dude, you were playing at home. We've only got 5 weeks left in the season from hell itself. That means the playoffs are about to be seen as we crest over the hill. And then the race to the finish will truly begin. The AFC is a mosh pit as we all expected. Right now, Miami is the current number 1 seed by tiebreaker, despite questions that linger. Baltimore, after their bye week, is slotted at number 2. Kansas City and Jacksonville, after some rough losses at home this past week, are the final division leaders at 3 and 4. The 3 wildcard spots are bunched up, as the Steelers, Browns, and Colts are all 7 and 5. The Texans are also 7 and 5, but the first team out. Denver, Cincinnati, and Buffalo sit on the fringes at 6 and 6, and the Chargers and Raiders are kinda there at 5 and 7. This is the playoff situation, and the madness is only going to amplify. There's only one rule, and sadly the Panthers didn't follow it.
Don't get eliminated!
Who expected this to be for playoff position at the start of the year? Football gods have their way of keeping us on our heels. We can, at minimum, confirm one thing. Jake Browning's performance last week was not a one-off. He was guiding a balanced approach to the Bengals offense throughout the game. That is, until a small hiccup on the road. Indianapolis embraced their opportunistic nature to both go on a long drive and score a pick 6 to tie the game up at 14. Only if they had the offensive talent to take advantage of such momentum and keep up with Browning. Too many mistakes in the second half. Gardner Minshew further epitomizes his role as a spot starter and the special teamers off punts. Opportunities slip away and the game drifts further and further from view. Once again, Cincinnati grasps onto their playoff hopes and refuse to let go. But they're still out of a spot right now due to tiebreaker. Indianapolis somehow is still the 7th seed. Pretty big game coming up against Pittsburgh, isn't it? With it being a home game and how bad they look, this should be manageable to win 5 of 6, right? Right, Colts? Well, this is gonna take a bit to sort out. Scriptwriters are generating so much hope that it could power a small town for years on end. A mediocrity carousel that'll make your head spin. The age of upsets brings us endless mosh pits. In the AFC, the Ravens seem to be the only team capable of separating themselves from the rest. Miami had a chance to match them, but they choked and are stuck at number 2. But that's only because the Chiefs and Jaguars have been in a state of freefall as of late due to a variety of reasons. The first wildcard spot standing alone are the Joe Flacco-led Cleveland Browns. Gotta love overcoming adversity. Speaking of adversity, the Steelers have self-imposed it on themselves, yet are somehow bullshitting their way to the 6th seed. Even zanier Indianapolis holds the final spot by tiebreaker. It's a 6-way tie for 2 spots. The Texans, Broncos, Bengals, and Bills are alongside them fighting for a chance to move on. Welcome to the mess, kids. We've got 4 games left. Only 1 spot's been clinched and 2 teams are out. Buckle up. Keep your hands inside at all times. And one more thing.
Don't get eliminated!
The Vikings are an experience. They cannot be described accurately without visual demonstration. If I were to simply regale you with tales of Minnesota madness, you would dismiss it as fiction. Have you heard the story of Nick Mullins? It's a messy one. Darby the House Viking has been demoted to 3rd stringer, yet the Vikings are running away with the matchup. Why they aren't? Nick Mullins. Boys and girls, Nick is a fan of what we call the fucking chuck. Some of the absolute worst turnovers you will see from a quarterback. Seriously, dude, what the fuck is this shit? This kind of ineptitude gets you benched in middle school. Even his touchdown passes are the flukiest of bullshit. In spite of him, the Bengals are struggling to do anything against this sturdy Brian Flores defense, and the Vikings are out to a 14-point lead. But you, the viewer, should know that you never let your guard down when it comes to Minnesota. An outcome of theirs outside of 1 score is illegal in the modern game. The Vikings defense obliges this law and proceeds to break under the powers of Jake Browning and his many weapons. Cincinnati gets the crowd back into it with a touchdown. Nick Mullins guides his team right to a 3-and-out. Their defense is exhausted and outgunned. Too bad, Minnesota, you're going to be victims of your own hex. There are no easy wins in Skullland, only more cardiac arrests. Yet they have to keep it interesting. The offense will push forward and continue the fascinating madness of Vikings football. Remember, Nick Mullins is a fan of the fucking chuck, even during touchdown drives when he throws dangerously across his body. Can the Vikings stop anything and hold this crucial lead? Are you kidding? They're bending into an infinite loop. Now all we need is some T. Higgins to emphasize it.
Pressure, throws it deep, and the ball is caught by T. Higgins at the 1-yard line.
That is a man that's going to get paid. And then some. Maybe even more during overtime. Here is where Minnesota has their masterpiece. They force Cincy to punt, but here's logic for you. Trust your running back Ty Chandler, who's been gashing this defense all day? Nah, just run QB sneaks with Nick Mullins. Twice. They fail miserably. I'd say Nick Mullins was betting on the other team, but nah, he just sucks this much. Don't be shocked that the Bengals respond in kind because the Vikings lost their ability to play defense. Good going, boys. The AFC hates your guts.
The snap's good, the hold is good, and the Bengals have come back to beat the Vikings in overtime.
Minnesota, you fucking suck. It's not even worth it to mock you. Just get the fuck out of my sight.
You blew it. Fish.
Another tick of the clock has passed. And while several teams have secured tickets to the dance, there is so much more at stake in this final stretch. The first seed in the AFC is all but Baltimore's the game. Barring a sudden skid, they'll be getting a needed first-round bye. Miami and Kansas City have a chance, but will need a lot of help for it to happen. The AFC East is still a contest, mostly because of Miami's choke. If the Dolphins lose these next 2 games and Buffalo wins them, it would set up a Week 18 clash for all the marbles. The AFC South is the next premier destination. With Jacksonville's recent slide, there's a 3-way tie for the title. However, the Jags still control their own destiny in this regard. The Texans and Colts have roughly an even chance of claiming it for themselves. The wildcard situation is still murky. Cleveland's win has all but guaranteed them a slot, but there's still a 4-way tie for 2 spots. Cincinnati's still rattling off wins, Indy and Houston are defying logic itself, and the Bills are coming in red hot. Pittsburgh and Denver are all but out due to recent defeats, but still have an outside chance. I wish you all good tidings and safe travels in this final week of 2023. Christmas season is hectic, but these holidays get more special with age. Enjoy your time with friends and family, cherish what you have in life, and do me one favor, please.
Don't get eliminated!
Oh, great. Now the Steelers bother to show up for a game. Now they outright crush a divisional foe when the season's been pissed away. Now the Bengals turn into a pumpkin after midnight. I don't know how a team has the most convincing, seamless victory in years, yet I'm pissed at them for it. With Mason Rudolph, the red zone reindeer, starting, you'd think Cincy would ride the great momentum they had to a win, but this wasn't just a blown tire. Both damn axles fell off. The Jake Browning Cinderella story has seemingly come to an end. Forcing terrible passes, unable to read Pittsburgh's defensive backups, just an all-around disaster. I don't know what the fuck their game plan was, but it was apparently to allow George Pickens to have a breakout game and Mike Tomlin to bullshit to another winning season. The road was hard in general, but the Bengals have all but bungled a playoff spot. Tends to happen when you can't stop the run and go winless in your own division. It's poetry, as has always been written in the book of the AFC North. But seriously, Pittsburgh, I'd be a lot more satisfied if you didn't shit it against damn 2-win teams. 2 more weeks to go, yet we have solved next to nothing. A few more pieces have moved into position, but very little set in stone. 2 teams clinched, 2 more eliminated, yet there are still 10 more teams that need to be cut off from the pack. Only 2 real contenders remain for the number 1 seed in the AFC. Baltimore and Miami. Conveniently, they play each other next week. The winner of that matchup likely decides the first round bye. Yet Cleveland's still got a very slim chance to claim it. I don't know how, but life is strange like that. The AFC East has no change, but Miami clinches it with a win or Buffalo loss. Any other outcome will set up a Week 18 matchup for the crown and its spoils. The AFC South might be the real tank division. Everyone lost. Same scenario as last week, with Jacksonville still somehow controlling their own destiny. Don't fuck up against Carolina. The wildcards are still a hot mess. Cleveland is all but a given, but Buffalo has escaped certain humiliation with a strong run of form. The 7th seed from hell is still Indianapolis's domain. But the Texans, Steelers, and Bengals are clinging on to their rear bumper. Denver's devastating losses all but knocked them out of contention. Yet the Raiders are defying life itself. You tell me how that is. We have 2 weeks left, and the purge will shortly commence. Make your preparations now, for there will only be one phrase chanted throughout the land. Don't get eliminated! Much anticipated rematch of the AFC Championship game has lost a lot of its luster. Cincy season has been lost due to Joe burrowing away for winter. The Chiefs are just dropping everything in sight. Hands of stone or a failing heart. Pick your poison. Despite what the Bengals try to do, they are cursed by the hallowed grounds of Burrowhead. With a 10-point lead in the second quarter and all the chances in the world, the offense just goes flat. No pulse. Dead in every sense of the word. Kansas City's offense is a total fucking mess, but it doesn't matter when their defense is destroying worlds. Especially near the goal line. Who knew that it'd be the Chiefs' offense getting carried? Cincy wishes that were them, but under the slow, foreboding trail of the road, Harrison Butker's leg cuts away at that lead like a knife through butter. 6 consecutive field goals to put the game all but out of reach. An 8-point lead feels insurmountable, and their final drive all but proves it. Jake Browning's a nice story, but he isn't Joe Burrow. To be fair, I don't know if Burrow would have helped here. As their offensive line reverts back to 2020 form, their season sacked in the process. Like all ambitions, the Bengals season falls to waste.
Thank you.
I figured this would be in the opposite scenario at the start of the year, but things are weird in 2024. The Browns are the ones resting their starters, which means that Cleveland's now starting their 5th QB of the season. Jeff Driscoll's still in the NFL? It's the most amazing thing I've heard in a while. The performance like this, it's a wonder why he even got another chance to begin with. Well, I guess it's another story to tell his grandkids in 50 years. When the Bengals look back, they'll want to drown this season in liquor and misery. This was as lost a year as you can get. Injuries, the sluggish start, and then the death knell when Burrow went down. Only the pondering of alternate outcomes. A dominating win means nothing more than every team in the AFC North finishing over 500 on the year. No celebrations, only mourning what was torn from them. There's always next year, they say. But what happens if year after year is more of the same? That's true pain. One gigantic hex-hit paycore after another. It started with the calf injury that limited Joe Burrow and messed up their offense. Fingers pointing everywhere in the organization as the defense does everything they can to keep the team afloat. But nothing's painful enough without that glimmer of hope. Cool Joe came back to health, and he was firing bullets to victory. The hopes of another deep run were reinvigorated for some time. And then Burrow was smoked out for good. Worst case scenario. Jake Browning did his best to commandeer the sinking ship, but the Bengals are built for one man. And no one else could overcome the losses they suffered. The epitome of a lost season. One where everything was lining up for a chance at glory only for it to be whittled away like their defense one by one. As frustrating as the offensive line failing to mesh despite endless resources thrown into the fire. fleeting like the potential departure of T. Higgins in the offseason. It's the greatest dilemma of putting all your money in one stock. If it tanks, your fortunes fall alongside it. Light a candle for their misery. It's one of the great shames of the sport itself.